whose car was broken into right in front of her house, and she's the only house on her street that has a Ring camera. And other homes, other cars and homes have been broken into, and no one else has a Ring camera. And so her recording got sent to the police, and so she's actually helping support. But I mean, nothing was taken, but it's the violation. You know, her blood pressure was up. She's been drinking BC powder. She's down in North Carolina. If you know what BC powder is, I'll tell you later. But she's on the BC powder right now because she's just really, and yeah. So just prayers for my family all around. But let's go to the front porch. So Eljoy Williams is the host of a show that comes on Urban View on SiriusXM, and it's called Sunday Civics. And Eljoy is engaged in helping people understand civics, how to become more involved, how to be more civically engaged. And I was listening to the replay of one of her shows a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking to a guest, and she described the conversation that she was having with this guest as a front porch conversation. And she went on to say that, you know, we don't talk on the front porch anymore. We don't talk on the stoop. There was a time when we would go out and we'd sit on the porch, you know, at the end of the day, put our feet up, get in the chair or the swing chair or whatever, and just talk to each other. Or maybe, because I know where we are, maybe it's the stoop. But whatever it is, we've retreated behind the doors of our homes. And when she was talking about that, I remembered an observation I made, and it could have been before the pandemic or during the height of the pandemic, when we had to go inside. No one was, not even with your own family, was anyone sitting outside. Everyone was inside, and the world was quiet. And now we're in the midst of a pandemic that is characterized not by a virus that enters our bodies, but more of a militaristic virus that has entered our communities. And we know that there are certain groups of people who have also retreated, and they're not outside anymore. There's no joy. There's the same kind of joyful noise and ringing that we used to hear, and we don't hear that much. And third spaces are gone. So we're not even really hanging out anymore. So today, I want to invite us out to the porch. I want us to pause a minute and let's just talk about some of the things that actually don't even get spoken about when we go inside. It is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And it's not an easy conversation for me to have as a survivor, but I know as a preacher, I am speaking with God's voice in my throat, attempting to bring some comfort to the folks here who statistically may have similar experience to mine. So I want us to be on the porch together. Can we do that? Tiffany said I would say a little bit more about Denim Day. Denim Day actually started in Italy. 1992, a young woman who's going for her driver's test was assaulted by the instructor. He was convicted, sent off to prison, but as often happens, folks go away and they're fighting from behind bars to get out. And so he fought his case, and the Italian Supreme Court ruled in his favor because the young woman was wearing jeans. Right. And because her jeans were so tightly fitting, it must have been consensual because she took them off. Right. Okay. Deep breath. So what happened after the case was reversed, the women in the Italian parliament came out in support, and they went to work wearing jeans in support of her. The executive director of Peace Over Violence here in the United States, Patty Ochiuzo-Giggins, she saw the story and she thought, you know what? We all need to be in solidarity with her and everyone else who has been silenced by the criminal injustice system. And so she said, let's all wear jeans to protest the jeans alibi. That's what it's called, the jeans alibi and victim blaming. So the last Wednesday of every April is Wear Denim Day. And coming out, though I'm no longer there at an anti-violence organization, I'll be wearing jeans on Wednesday, and I'll be taking a picture with the hashtag Denim Day in support of survivors of assault. Right. But today is Denim Sunday, and there are churches across this country, and I'm so delighted to see, watching videos of churches, pastors dressed up in denim, just to be in solidarity. And you don't have to say a word, just put on your denim, and that's it. That's it. So, while we're sitting on the porch talking about Denim Day, I want to take a minute to reminisce. This version of the 23rd Psalm, I know, is not everyone's favorite. And I know the reasons why. And look, I learned this version when I was a little girl growing up in Antioch Baptist Church, way up in Bedford Hills, New York. Not upstate, but just in Westchester. And even though I went off to a fancy theological school and I learned that I can use different pronouns for God because God is expansive and I understand the expansiveness of God, of who God has been, who God is today, right now, and who God will be, I understand and embrace that. And I also know that there is something comforting for me in the these and the thous and the leadeth and the maketh. And so I wanted to sit on the porch for a little while and just reminisce about the 23rd Psalm and what it has meant to me and how, as a survivor, I, and I know others, stand on some blocks in our spiritual upbringing, even though we're building a different house on top of that foundation. The Lord is my shepherd. I really don't need anything. I shall not want. I shall not be in want. It's a reminder of how I have survived with everything around me. What is it that I need? But it's also a reminder to me that if I really don't need anything, who does? And how can I help supply that person's need? How can I be the hands and the feet and the voice that they need to fulfill, supply what they want? She maketh me lie down. I thought about this as someone who has parented and has asked my nieces to just go lay down somewhere, to be still. When we're ripping and running and we're moving and our minds are chaotic and we're in a frenzy, it's not the force, go sit down, but it's an invitation to rest. The shepherd pulls me and says, okay, you've done enough. Be at rest. Because there's always going to be something to do. There's always going to be some work to do. You can rest for just a couple of minutes. It will be okay. Green pastures. I love that image. Looking out on the porch and looking across the field, I can see those green pastures and see how peaceful it must be, even in allergy season, to be out in nature and leading me besides the still waters, not the waters that are crashing and choppy, but just waves. Going in, coming out, still, easy. She restoreth my soul. The is to do over again. The store, to bring me back to a place, to replenish me, to refill me, to help me reclaim some of my humanity, the restoration of all that's been stolen from me. Leading me in the paths for their name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley, even if my steps are inch by inch, I'm still walking through the valley of death dealing. I want to quote Katie Cannon here, the womanist scholar who talked about the death-dealing dynamics of oppressive forces like white supremacy, sexism, racism, patriarchy, walking through the valley, surrounded by all of these things. And remember, when you're in a valley, you're down here while all of those things are above you, threatening to tumble down like boulders. And yet, I'm walking through that valley. Thou art with me, your rod and your staff. So if you Google rod and staff, and you should, the rod, so I don't know I know nothing about being a shepherd, nothing. I know Australian sheepdogs. I know what they look like. I know what lamb tastes like. But I don't know anything about being a shepherd. Rod and staff. The rod is actually to protect the animal from, as David protected, right, from lions and tigers and bears. And the staff is to pull because it has a crook on the end, so it's to pull. That rod is protection against the barrage of lies that I've been told about my survivorship. The rod is the protection against thinking that it could possibly, that anything that's happened to me in this regard could possibly be my fault. The rod tells me, no, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Don't believe those lies that people are saying about you. And the staff is to pull me back when I've gone a little too far into believing something else about myself, when I've gone a little too far in acting out of or in those lies. The rod, the staff, pulls me back around my waist, around my ankle, but it pulls me back into right relationship with my Creator. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. When I go into a restaurant, I never want to sit with my back to the door. I don't. And that's part of my survivorship. Yes, I am hypervigilant. Yes, I'm always watching the doors. I know every exit. When I'm teaching, I know how to get out, as well as I know how to get in. I would never make a reservation in the presence of people who are out to get me. I would never make a reservation to sit by the kitchen. I'd never make a reservation to sit with my back to the window. But the shepherd says, or the writer says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Like, I don't even know that they're there because I know I'm covered by you. I know you're protecting me. Right there. And I wouldn't even know it. You know, in my tradition, we sometimes pray, thank you, God, for guiding me through danger seen and unseen. Didn't even know they were there. And you have me, you're providing sustenance for me right in the midst of it. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over, and surely, without a doubt, goodness and mercy. Not good as I know good. My ideas of good are so limited by my humanity. What I think is good isn't even fair in God's estimation. But the shepherd's goodness and mercy chase after me, because I'm not smart enough to stay in place and wait for it to catch up to me. But it chases after me. It's coming looking for me. God's goodness and mercy is trying to catch up to me if I would just slow down a little bit to experience the goodness of God, so I can dwell, not just visit, so I could sit on the porch in the house of the Lord forever, in the midst of all that goodness and mercy. And I know this will be true. I know this to be true. Because God's faithfulness is better than good. God's faithfulness to me is better than any good I can imagine. Great is God's faithfulness to continue to watch over me, protect, guide, direct, run over into my life so we may dwell. Thank you for sitting with me on the porch for a little while.